Recruitment Perspectives. Most everyone has those people, places, and activities in their lives that mean most to them and rate highest with them. I'm sure that's true with you, and I know it's true with me. Money and income, for that matter, both have their place, and maintaining a balanced perspective toward money and income can often be a challenge. Being a lead agent cannot help but amplify focus somewhat on generating income. Without apology, that's what CARE's all about. It's a business, a very special type of business. So, when the topic is CARE, the topic is also money and income. That holds true of this final installment of C.A.R.S. We're concluding our outlook on and regard for CARE as a generator of money and income relative to agent recruitment. While it may not always sound balanced, we here seek to wrap the recruitment business up as effectively, meaningfully, pointedly, and as productively as possible. Focus can tend to sound off balance when it's only actually just focused. Learn and practice the most beneficial behaviors. Part of what we're constructively encouraging organization-wide is the learning and practicing of the behaviors that add to one's bank account most often. The major underlying themes required for CARE lead agents are discipline and focus. A lead agent is in the CARE business to increase the number and size of their bank deposits. One of the main ways that's accomplished is by hiring the best agents. The recruiting and supporting of their agents, plus advancing cash, are their two primary income generators. These activities warrant the foremost focus of the lead agent. So, you may wish to periodically ask yourself some pivotal questions. Do you know why you're showing up? Why you're doing this? Do you know what your primary goals are when you're calling on or meeting with agent prospects? Is it to develop a relationship, generate interest in your offering, educate the prospect, establish credibility? Well, if you ask a dozen representatives in other arenas, you'll likely receive a dozen different answers, and most of these components of goals, relationships, interest generation, prospect education, and credibility establishment will show up in the answers of the more conscientious, better trained reps. While each of these activities play a part in the development process, they are auxiliary. They are not and should not become the central focus of your call. The goal of establishing and pursuing dialogue with prospects is, of course, to locate the most fitting agents and recruit them onto your team. That, in turn, leads to bigger deposits showing up in your bank account more often. Better judgment would recommend then that you invest your business time in the activities that measurably assist your bank account more often. And try not to spend a lot of time and energy on business activities that don't, like worrying about what the prospect may think of you as a person. Stay focused on qualifying opportunities up front, using specific criteria as benchmarks. Maintain your focus on moving those qualified opportunities forward in a predefined manner, i.e., toward the bank. Dollars are measurable. Most everything else is not. Ask yourself, what has to happen in any relationship to be reflected in my bank account? How much time should it take to develop and close an opportunity? Let the history you develop yourself be your guide. For instance, if it typically takes a phone call and a personal meeting to sign on a good agent recruit, and you've placed 4 calls and have met with the same prospect 3 times, either your focus or your dialogue or both likely went off track at some point. If you've misjudged an opportunity and it's stalled, dragging on without measurable progress, you might as well let it go. If you spent more time on a prospect than is appropriate or is typically productive, throw in the towel on it. Try to learn from it. Use it to improve yourself, if by no other means than to resolve not to let dead-end dialogue drag on that far ever again. Chalk it up to experience and move on. Don't continue to hang in there because you and the prospect have a great relationship or because of the time you've already invested. If the prospect doesn't measure up, abandon the pursuit and redirect your energy toward those that do. You can't lose a genuinely good prospect you haven't recruited. The only thing you risk by addressing, say, the prospect's delaying tactics directly is the risk of uncovering the truth. And if the truth is that you're not going to get the quality of agent you seek from a given person, then you would surely not want to postpone learning that. The underlying reason for hanging on to agent opportunities that have stalled usually is fear. Fear that another worthy agent candidate won't come along. Fear that if you let go of the opportunity, you're forever unable to get them back. Fear that you'll have to go out and proactively prospect in order to find another acceptable candidate. Disqualified today, though, doesn't mean disqualified forever. If there is a clear understanding, that is, an understanding that both sides can articulate and understand that the circumstances disqualifying the prospect today may or will change in some specific and requisite way or ways in the future, update your calendar and set yourself an appointment to resume your prospect cultivating and development activities with that person at that time. For example, if the prospect cannot financially qualify or has matters to which they must attend, like wrapping up a military career, for example, then once that's resolved, their cash card agent candidacy can be reconsidered. When you have superior individually adapted working guidelines which personally fit you best, and specific criteria by which to judge an opportunity, and when you make a constant commitment to apply and abide by those criteria, you improve your efficiency both in each individual situation as well as across the board. And you expand your own potential for recruiting the best agents more quickly. With practice, you learn to minimize the time spent with tire kickers, perpetual shoppers, the initially overexcited and usually underqualified, and other sorts of also-ran prospects. Your recruitment cycle becomes shorter and your sign-on ratio improves. You will then find your bank account with more frequent and larger deposits. The value of preparation. When you deliver a presentation, you must have fully qualified all possible aspects of the opportunity and decided for yourself that, in relation to your team's needs relative to the goals, aspirations, and personal resources the prospect can bring to your team, that signing them on as an agent makes the most sense and is a best fit overall solution. You must have discovered the criteria by which your presentation will be judged, which is primarily specified, targeted, and generally scripted toward addressing some of the most vital needs of those contacting you with regard to becoming an agent on your cash card team. Before rolling out your presentation, you must have endeavored to pre-secure a commitment from the prospect that he will make a decision no later than at the conclusion of your presentation. Not only that, you must be resolute about conditioning that decision in the form of an upfront agreement. Without personal preparation and without your own commitment for a decision, you may be able to get your prospect in your sights, but your ability to nail the recruitment will be impaired. As a regular recommendation, carefully examine and review your presentation preparation routine. Figure out whether you set up your presentations in a way that leaves you ready to bring a fitting prospect on board. If you discover problems or deficiencies, seek to identify what's missing and develop the questions you need to ask to correct those shortfalls and fill in the blanks and the holes. Then determine where and when in your prospect dialogue and process you should be alert to ask those questions. Keeping your options open. Throughout C.A.R.S, you've been presented many state-of-the-recruitment art ideas regarding script, material sequencing, and personalizing presentation items, all with the intent of enabling you to establish the finest recruitment material available in ways best suited to you and your personal style. You're invited to shop around the many C.A.R.S chapters, picking out those approaches and supporting materials that most favorably align with your own style and preferences. Presentations and prospect dialogue are all about keeping your options open, not about nailing down a specific sequence of events or sticking relentlessly to a cut-and-dried, rigid, inflexible script. Some scripting can be a good idea as a form of preparation, particularly on the phone, so you don't needlessly try to form every conversation from scratch or sentence yourself to trying to remember key pieces on the fly. A good strategy is to map out your call ahead of time by identifying the key points you need those to cover and the critical prospect information you want to find out. It can certainly be helpful to devise some key questions to lead into each point. To prompt yourself, put your script up on a computer monitor, even on a video call. The prospect can't see it. Rehearse your questions, but don't lock yourself into a sequence or restrict yourself only to the planned topics. Try to be flexible and maintain fluidity. Use your knowledge of cash card. If your prospect brings up a topic or previously undisclosed concern that is relevant to your offer, pursue it because it's of stated interest to your prospect. Allowing yourself to deviate from your initial plan and follow a new path may be just what it takes to build appropriate rapport and dialogue with this individual prospect, and you get positive results eventually in your bank account. To avoid becoming locked into a scripted approach, map out, in whatever fashion that's most comfortable for you, the primary elements of an initial call with a prospect. Next, develop bullet points to address each primary element so that they're easier to see and less likely to be overlooked. Instead of bullets, optionally use checkboxes and print out your simple point list, checking off each point as it's covered.